Hey crew, how are you? Hope you guys are enjoying some remote learning. Maybe. I don't know. Here at our house,
I'm fine with it, but I'm not at home all day, so.
that's because he goes to work, you guys. He doesn't have to deal with it. I, on the other hand, have two crazy minions at home. So it's a little crazy. But crazy's good sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. So hopefully you guys are doing okay. Hopefully you guys are, finding some time to not super annoy your parents or your siblings or, whatever. Getting some time for yourselves. Anyhow, so we're going to watch a video tonight. I know we're not in person, but, we're getting to hang out together online. That's super swell. So we're going to watch a video. It's about my man Zacchaeus and Jesus. Like I have mentioned before, this is like one of my favorite stories because it helps us to know how we should live, how we should be like Jesus. It's kind of a cool story. So hang out, watch it, see if you can learn something more. I think the tagline today is that it's
Jesus wants to know your story. Yeah. So you got a little bit of our story with the remote learning, with Rachel staying at home and me working. So you get to know us a little bit better. So if you see Rachel with a big patch of hair missing out of her, you know she's pulled it out because of our voice. So it's getting to know your story so you can know someone else better.
Yeah. Watch it, hang out, and another part of our story is Paul loves to put up Christmas lights. So if you guys get out and you want to drive by our house, we have shared in the spirit already.
It's decorated. We'll put it that way.
Pre-Thanksgiving. We're spreading some joy. So if you guys get out and you drive down Miami, we might be the most lit house on Miami if you don't know where we live. So anyway, that's a little bit about our story. Enjoy the video, and as always,
you're loved.
You're loved.
Super Gene! What's up, friends? I think we can all agree that superhero movies are pretty big nowadays. Between Marvel and DC, we have enough movies, video games, and spin-off shows to keep us entertained for a long time. One of my favorite things about superhero movies is the super cool, hero landings and jumps and poses and sayings that superheroes have. Something else I love about superhero movies, the backstory. I love getting all the little details about how each hero became, well, a hero. It always seems like if we're going to really understand who a superhero is, we need to understand where they came from. Did you know that the same thing is true for us? Just think about this. How many people in our schools, in our neighborhoods, on our teams, or even in this room right now do we assume we know? We might feel confident that we know the stories of some people just because we know some things about them, like their name, or what they're good at, or what they're into when it comes to clothes, music, or friends. We think we know the full picture of who a person is because of what we can see. The way they act, the way they live, who their friends are, and more. That tells us all we need to know, right? Well, not exactly. See, we can know a lot about a person, but not really know them. Just like in the superhero movies, there's a really good chance that there's more to the stories of the people around us than we see or know. Because here's what I know is true. Everybody has a backstory. And each and every person we think we know, there's more to their story than what we can see. And if we really want to know someone, we have to understand where they come from. We have to see more than just what's on the outside. We have to understand the people, experiences, beliefs, and more that make them who they are. Now, I think you probably know what I mean because you have a backstory. You know that in your own life, there's more to the story, and you want the people around you to recognize that too. Maybe you got angry and yelled at a sibling this week. You found yourself thinking, she'd understand if she knew about the friend drama going on right now. Or maybe you turned an assignment in late and thought, my teacher would be more understanding if she knew that the power got shut off at our house this week. Maybe you stopped texting a friend back and thought, they have no idea how depressed I am. If they did, they'd know why I'm not responding. That stuff going on that you wish other people would consider, that's your backstory. It's where you're coming from right now. And if you're like me, you wish people would try to understand a little more of it from time to time. But I think the question for all of us is this: do we give the same kind of grace to other people? I know I sometimes don't. The reality is, we rarely consider the backstories of other people. We don't often stop to consider where they're coming from. And because of that, we don't ever really personally know them. So how do you and I begin to see the backstory? How do we make an effort to understand where people are coming from? How do we make it personal? Thankfully, Jesus gives us a great example to follow. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at a cool story from Jesus' life. A couple of thousand years ago, he was traveling in ancient Israel and came across a town that was home to a well-known bad guy. I know we talked about superheroes earlier, but this guy was more of a super villain in his community. His name was Zacchaeus, and he was a tax collector, which basically meant he cheated his neighbors out of money just so that he could keep his wealth and power. Even though his reputation was rough, when he heard Jesus was in town, Zacchaeus went out and made an effort to see him. He wanted to catch a glimpse of Jesus so much that he climbed a tree just to see if he could spot him in the crowd of people. What was crazy is that out of the entire crowd, Jesus noticed Zacchaeus up in that tree. And not only that, Jesus walked over, called Zacchaeus by name, and told him to get out of that tree. Why? Well, for a reason no one expected: to hang out. Yes, that's right. Jesus wanted to hang out with Zacchaeus, to spend time with him, to get to know him. And not just anywhere. Jesus wanted to go to Zacchaeus' home, the place he came from. Take a look. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. I realize Jesus inviting himself over to Zacchaeus' house may seem a little strange to us, but it would have been absolutely wild in this culture 2,000 years ago. Zacchaeus was not a good dude, and everyone knew that. I mean, Jesus knew it too. But Jesus wasn't satisfied with only knowing about Zacchaeus. He wanted to actually know Zacchaeus. That's why Jesus wanted to go right to where he lived. See, there's something about where we live that says a lot about who we are. Where we live is usually the place where we're most comfortable. It's the place where our guard comes down and we can be who we really are. Can you imagine Jesus coming over to Zacchaeus' house and Zacchaeus taking his sandals off, putting on his barbecue apron, and kicking back with Jesus? "Hey, what's up, Jesus? What you want, some pork or some beef? Some sauce with that? I don't know." Now, I'm not sure that's exactly how it went down, but one thing is clear. Jesus wanted to make it personal. Sure, he already knew everything about Zacchaeus, but he still decided to take a step into his world to get to know him. Jesus made it personal with Zacchaeus when he took a step to understand where Zacchaeus lived. Visiting Zacchaeus' home meant that Jesus would get to know him in a very personal way. Jesus would get a glimpse into an important part of Zacchaeus' backstory. Of course, Jesus already knew his backstory because he is Jesus. But that visit showed Zacchaeus that he was accepted, story and all. See, where we live isn't just a physical address. It's a place that gives others a glimpse into our personal situations, our day-to-day lives. Where we live is a part of our backstory. It's the part most people don't typically get to see. And what's cool is that what Jesus did for Zacchaeus was an example of something that Jesus does for you and for me too. While he may have walked into just one man's house that day, it gives us a small glimpse into the way God stepped into all of our lives when he chose to send his son, Jesus, to earth. The God who created the universe stepped into our world to understand where we come from, to show us how much he cares, to understand our stories in a real and personal way. It's personal because Jesus understands your story. He knows our stories because he knows where we live and what it's like to walk in our shoes. He doesn't just see and understand a little bit about us. He knows us because he knows our whole story. And he loves us no matter what. If the way we treat other people is going to be personal, then we have to choose to understand their stories, just like Jesus does for us. So, where do we start? Well, before we get to know others, we might need to become known ourselves. For some of us, our first step might be to acknowledge that Jesus wants to know you personally. In fact, he already knows you better than you know yourself. But you might need to invite him into your story. He wants to be a part of your life in a real, personal way. You can talk with your group leader or a friend you trust about what it means to follow Jesus and experience life the way that he says is best for you. Then, it might be time to let someone else into your story. Your step might be to share more of your story with someone else. Not just some random person or a stranger, but someone who really cares about you. Someone you trust who is really a big part of your life. A great place to start is with your small group. What if you started to share a little bit more about where you come from? What if you told them a little bit about what your life is really like? What if you opened up to share more of your backstory? It could be the step that helps them know and care about you personally in a way they couldn't before. Maybe you're in a place where you want to make it personal with others, the way Jesus did for you. You can do this by giving someone the gift of going second. In other words, you can be the first one to share. You can choose to share a little bit of your own backstory so that other people know it's safe to share some of theirs with you. When you share a little about what you're living with right now, it can give someone the courage to do the same. And when someone does share their story with you, make sure you choose to listen and ask questions to learn more. When you show someone you care by listening and wanting to know more, you show them just how personal getting to know their story is for you. Just imagine if getting to know the stories of your classmates, teammates, and neighbors was something you took personally. You'd start seeing people for who they really are instead of who you think they are. You'd become known as a person who really cares, a person they can trust, a person who wants to know people in a real and personal way. You actually have an opportunity to do just that in your group. It's a place to ask questions, to listen, and get to know their whole story. And you can share your story with them in return. So remember, it's personal because Jesus understands your story. And as you get ready to share a little more of your story with your group today, I want you to think about this. What's one thing most people don't really know about you?